And welcome back to EH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and we have a bunch of new, really interesting commanders here. And they all have really fantastic new etched art borders, I guess they call it. They all look really fantastic. So we're going to start out with Hensey, Toolbox, Tori, which is interesting that they have the quotations in there. They have done that before, though. That's not new. I know there is I believe a Portal 3 Kingdoms commander, legendary creature that has the quotations in there. So black, red, and a green Devil Rogue. We got some really interesting creature type combinations in this set. So a 3/3, each creature spell you cast with mana value 4 or greater has Blitz. The Blitz cost is equal to its mana cost. So as well, at least I have already learned, and maybe some of you guys have as well, Blitz is the new ability from this set. You may choose to cast the spell for its Blitz cost. If you do, it gains haste. And when it dies, draw a card, and you also sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So you already have that card draw pretty much wrapped up, unless I guess your opponents exile it at some point before your end step. But that seems like a bit of a waste of a removal spell, in my opinion. So each creature spell you cast, whenever you have a commander like this, and we already saw this with the new Ninja Commander from the last set. Whenever you see this, each creature spell you cast, it gets me a little worried. Each creature spell you cast with mana value 4 or greater has Blitz. And of course, 4 or greater is, if this was 4 or less, it'd be like, okay, well, you can blitz all your small creatures. Blitzing all your big creatures, though, its Blitz cost is equal to its mana cost. So, I guess that's not bad because you have to pay its mana cost. So what this guy does is he allows you to shoot out your big creatures that are then going to die, and then you get to draw a card. So that actually doesn't seem that bad. That seems okay. However, Blitz cost you pay costs 1 less for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. So already, just with Hensey casting it once, right? So obviously the first time you've cast it once from the command zone. Now your Blitz costs are all reduced by 1. So now essentially all your creatures are reduced by 1, but they're going to die. But maybe you want them to die, right? And then you get to draw the card, so you get that value back. You fill your graveyard. You can use recursion. You can, there's lots of stuff you can do there. Definitely going to be a popular commander for sure. And then, of course, once you cast your commander a couple times, it's going to cost 2 or 3 or however many less to blitz those creatures out. I mean, you're going to be chucking. I don't want to make the comparison to the Umezawa Ninja Commander from the last set, but man, there's a little bit of comparisons here. I would say this is not nearly as broken, but you can get a little out of hand here for sure. Hurling giant creatures at your opponent's faces, and then, they sacrifice, you draw a card. You could probably do a lot of stuff with like dice triggers and stuff. Again, there's a lot of great creatures out there that when they die, you get lots of good stuff, big ones where you're getting lots of great value when they die. Yeah, and then obviously the recursion thing works here great too. It wouldn't hurt to put a living death in a deck like this after you fill your graveyard with giant creatures, right? So yeah, I could definitely see a lot of people being interested in this guy for sure. Next up, we have Kanto Mayhem Diva. 1, a red, a green, and a white, and another really interesting creature type, Cat Bard Druid. That's weird. A bard and a druid is definitely a weird combination. I don't know. For somebody who plays Dungeons and Dragons, bard and druid are a bizarre combination you don't see much. So it's a 3/3. When Kanto enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. I love that they brought the citizens back. Like, citizens have been around forever in Magic's history, but they haven't really done it in a long time. So it's kind of neat that they're bringing it back. So you get a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. So citizen, tribal, anybody. I'm not sure if there's anything there to use with that. But at the beginning of combat on each player's turn, okay, so already that's great. Whenever something happens on every player's turn, there's obviously a lot you can do there. You may tap 2 untapped creatures you control. When you do, target creature that player controls gets +2/+2 and gains trample in a turn. Goad that creature. Wow. So another Naya Cat goading commander. We already have one of those. So even though this is doing it in a very different way, it would have been nice if they would have done it in different colors, because we already have a Naya goat. Again, goading is something that people have just really been loving, and they've really been pushing that a lot. I like the way this is doing it. It's very interesting. At the beginning of comment on each player's turn, you may tap 2 untapped creatures you control. So you need lots of creatures in play, right? If you just have your commander and the token, now you can do this on one player's turn. Obviously, if you have a Seedborn Muse, that would be ideal here. Having untappers like that would be fantastic. So now you only need 2 creatures. When you do, target creature that player controls gets +2/+2 and trample. So yeah, it's a go deck. You're obviously going to be throwing your opponent's creatures at each other. Very sort of cute, interesting way they're doing it, though. They're doing it in a very you're not just goading your opponent's creatures. You're doing it in a very unique way, which I kind of like. So it's only 1. You can only goad 1 creature at a time, so they can still attack you with the rest of their creatures, right? Might be ideal to put Pillow 40 effects, the Ghostly Prisons and whatnot in here. It might be good to put other goat effects, obviously, are going to be great in this deck as well. Again, judging by the popularity of Marisi, Breaker of the Coil, which is a commander that I did not think was going to be very popular because, as I've said before, I ran out and made that deck right away when I first saw it because I thought it was interesting, and I just found that people hated having their creatures goated all the time, so you became the arch enemy pretty quickly. That could happen here as well, but again, judging by how much people like goading creatures in this sort of strategy, I think this is going to be a really popular commander for sure. Next up, we got Kamiz Obscura Oculus. 1, a white, a blue, and a black. And again, look at that creature type, a Cephalid Rogue. That's so funny. They're bringing Cephalids back. Wow. I wonder, I have an Abishon deck. I wonder if they're going to bring some more Cephalid. This can't be the only Cephalid. There's got to be at least a few more, you'd think, right? So whenever you attack, target attacking creature can't be blocked this turn. So you're making one of your creatures unblockable. It connives. I don't know why that cracks me up, connives. It just seems like a weird ability to have on a Magic card. Then choose another attacking creature with lesser power. That creature gains double strike until end of turn. Oh boy, there's a lot to unpack here. To have a creature connive, draw a card, then discard a card. If you discard an online card, you put a counter on it. So you're going to attack, and you have to have 2 attacking creatures in order to make this ability really work for you, right? And you're going to have 1 attacking creature, the bigger creature that's going to be unblockable, right? And it's going to connive. Then you're going to choose another attacking creature, and that creature, because that creature has to have lesser power, right? The second creature has to have lesser power, and if you don't have a creature with lesser power, then it's not going to matter. It's not going to do nothing, right? That creature gains double strike. So you're going to have 2 creatures attacking. One's going to be big and unblockable. One's going to be smaller and have double strike. So that's not bad. I would definitely, if I was building this deck, I would fill it with creatures that want to be connecting, right? And there's lots of those. Like whenever this creature connects, draw a card, stuff like that. Because either scenario here would work good there, right? If you have the creature that is not able to be blocked, you're guaranteed to get that trigger. And if it's the creature that has the lesser power, which is probably more likely, it's going to get the double strike. So if it connects to draw a card, the double strike will connect twice. Assuming you connect with that player, the double strike will mean it hits for first strike damage, you draw a card, and then it hits for the regular damage and you will draw another card. So filling your decks with lots of stuff like that, like whenever this creature connects, your opponent has to sacrifice a creature. There's lots of creatures in these colors that will be doing stuff like that. So really, really interesting. You could use one of my favorite cards, Pharrell Zealot, in this deck because it is white. And that works as well because you can make it so that it can't be blocked, right? It doesn't work with the double strike part, but it works with the can't be blocked because, and again, there's a bunch of creatures. Bone Dancer is another really interesting one that you could throw in this deck. That would be fun to include here. Creatures that, the way they used to word it is whenever this creature attacks and isn't blocked, they don't really do that anymore. So those creatures, you could do some research there. Again, Pharrell Zealot and Bone Dancer are a couple of my favorites where if they attack and aren't blocked, you get something out of it. And that would work good here too, because obviously you can make them unblockable. Just being able to make one of your creatures unblockable every turn is pretty fantastic, right? So obviously there's a lot you can do there. Really interesting commander for sure. Moving on though, we got lots to talk about. And Hilo the Painter, blue, black, and a red vampire assassin. And we've definitely had vampire assassins before. 1/3 with Death Touch. It's always great to see Death Touch on your commander. It just sits there and your opponents just don't want to attack you. The first instant or sorcery spell you cast each turn has Casualty 2. And what the heck is Casualty 2? Okay, so as you cast that spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 2 or greater. So I guess it's your casualties, right? When you do, copy the spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Wow, that's very interesting. So the creature you sacrifice has to be power 2 or greater. That's the 2 when it says Casualty 2. So obviously Casualty 4 would mean you would have to sacrifice creatures with power 4 or greater. So that's the stipulation there. Power 2 or greater is pretty easy. I mean, zombie tokens, those are all typically power 2 or greater, so that wouldn't be difficult to do here. Yeah, that's a powerful ability, no question about it. The first instant and sorcery spell you cast each turn. Of course, the instant you cast a sorcery on your turn, on your opponent's turn, you'll be casting instants, so being able to do it on your opponent's turns as much as possible. Gotta have the creatures to sacrifice, though. This is going to be a popular commander, man. This sort of feels like Kess, which is a really, really popular commander, and Calamax, which is a really, really popular commander. I believe the most popular teamer commander now. This seems like a combination of both. Maybe because you're limited on the having to sacrifice stuff, but, you know, tokens that replenish themselves, you know, Ghoulish Procession comes to mind right off the top of my head. There's a enchantment that's going to be spitting out those 2/2 tokens all the time. It's going to be a great fit in this deck to make sure you have fodder to copy your spells. And it's going to be, you know, you're going to want lots of instant speed. You know, removal is the obvious one. Counter spells, although copying counter spells isn't really typically very usable. The draw spells, though, right? Instant speed draw spells and stuff like that is going to be really, really helpful here. This is going to be a popular one for sure. No question. Next up, we have Perry the Pulverizer. 1 white, green, and a blue. So a Bant commander, Rhino Soldier, 3/3. When Perry enters the battlefield, put a shield counter on target creature. So again, with the shield counters, if it would be dealt damage or destroyed, remove a shield counter from it instead. Oh, so the shield counters actually do something. I didn't know that. That's interesting. If it would be dealt damage or destroyed, remove a shield counter from it instead. Oh, wow. So it's like Totem Armor. Totem Armor, but a counter. Wow, that's really good. Okay. When Perry attacks, target creature you control gains trample and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of different kinds of counters among permanents you control. Wow, I love it. That's so interesting. Counter tribal, it's essentially, right? When it enters the battlefield, put a shield counter on target creature. So you're going to want to put a shield counter on your commander, I think. Perry is going to put counters on himself, I would imagine. But whenever it attacks, target creature you control gains trample. And again, I think you're probably going to use that on your own commander, right? Where X is the number of different kinds of counters among permanents you control. So it's a little bit of a Voltron-y strategy, I think, here. You could do it with other creatures, I suppose. Again, you could do the, you know, maybe I got creatures that I want to get in for damage with. It would fit here as well, because you could give that creature, when it swings, like a Cold-Eyed Selkie. Oh man, a Cold-Eyed Selkie would be great here, right? Because when it attacks, you're going to give it +X/+X and trample and draw that many cards. Cephalid Constable would be the other one, right? That's the other one that cares about dealing, you know, it's that many, you're bouncing that many permanents. That's the important wording there. So if your Cephalid Constable is a 7/7, you're going to bounce 7 permanents when you connect. Oh boy, those two, I would imagine those two creatures are auto-includes in this deck. Yeah, so maybe you might want to attack with your commander and do a Voltron strategy. It might be interesting, more interesting to do creatures like that. And then where X is the number of different kinds of counters among permanents you control, that to me is the really fun part. I love decks like this where you can just do the research. Like right off the top of my head, the Bounty of the Luxa is a card that would fit in this deck. It's a really interesting card that puts counters on itself. And I can't remember is it a flood counter, right? So there's a really interesting, bizarre counter that you don't really typically see a lot of places that would be a nice fit in this deck. It does keep getting removed, but it's a card that puts an interesting, unique counter on itself that I think would be a great fit here. And looking up cards like that to fit in decks like this, I think is super, super interesting. Very interesting commander. This is one that I for sure, like, I suspect this could be a popular one. You never know. I mean, all of these commanders that I've already talked about, I think could all be very popular, so it's hard to say, but this might, and as I've already said, I do not have a 3-color deck, but this set, having all these fantastic 3-color commanders, might be the set that's going to sort of move me in that direction and force me to make a 3-color commander. And this could be the one. And I really like Bant as a color combination. It's probably my favorite 3-color combination. And this might be the one that forces me to go in that direction, because there's a lot you can do here. I think it's really interesting. But that is it. That is all. 5 more. Really interesting, really unique 3-color commanders. I guess they were all 3-color commanders, so there's going to be a lot of that going on, obviously. Super interesting. Which one do you guys think is the most powerful of the bunch? They're all really, really great here. I don't know which one. It's hard to say which one's going to be the most popular out of the bunch here. I think and Hilo is probably going to be the one that people really, really go after. People really like that spell slinger theme, so that might be the most popular of this particular bunch anyway. But what do you guys think? Let me know. But that is it for the day, and thanks for tuning in.